I'm here with Josh Kangas. He's assistant teaching professor at CMU, and I'm here to interview about his job. So what's your background and what did you major in?
So for my undergrad, I started out in a business major and then switched to computer science and found an interest in biology along the way and did some biology research. And then for graduate school, I did computational biology and earned my PhD here at CMU.
And can you tell us a bit what you currently do as your work?
So as a teaching professor in the comp bio department, my primary role is to teach all of the lab courses. And in these lab courses, we try to focus the activities to sit at the interface of computation and wet lab experimentation. So like approximately half the time is spent generating data and half the time is spent doing analysis of the data that we generate.
And what are some of the interesting things being done in this field?
Well, there are lots of interesting things. I think on a high level, there are lots of interesting applications of like deep learning methods. There are also really interesting things being done on the experimental side to generate enormous amounts of complex data very quickly. And the combination of those two things, I think, are going to have a big impact going forward.
And how does a typical day on the job look like?
Oh, I don't think there are any typical days as an educator. So one of the nice things about being a faculty member is that we have a lot of flexibility some days, and then other days that we have to do like administrative work, or when we teach courses, we have to stick to those kinds of schedules. But in a semester, I typically teach 2 to 3 classes, and in a typical week, I'd probably meet with students 15 or 20 hours in the classroom in total. And most of that is in the lab, but a little bit would be in kind of lecture type sessions.
All right. And what's your favorite or maybe least favorite part about the job?
My favorite part is when I'm working with a student and they suddenly understand something that they've been struggling to understand. That's almost an addiction, I think, for people who like teaching is that moment. Least favorite part, I don't know, grading is horrible. I hate grading.
Yeah.
But you have to give assessments in some way, so it's a necessary evil.
And what surprised you about this field of work?
It's a good question. I think what surprises me the most currently is kind of the clever ways that experimentation can be applied to generate data in novel ways. They got a pretty good idea coming into it what it was, which is that we're using sophisticated computation to understand complex biological processes. So no huge surprises.
And how much do you use your major in your current job?
So in terms of my undergraduate major in computer science, like all the time. Right? I do a decent amount of programming and teach students programming. In terms of my PhD work, I have taught a whole course based on the kind of work I did for my PhD. But really the theme in my PhD was to look at the combination of computation and experimentation, and I use that all the time. Try to teach the students from my experience.
And if you were what's an entry-level job look like in this field of work?
It's a good question. It's kind of harder to find. So if you're on a trajectory towards academia, I've been in labs where we've had high school students come in and work for a few hours a week over a summer, that kind of thing. We've also had undergrads do work in the labs, and typically undergrads can take credit, get course credit for that, or they can be paid. And then we've had master's students and even PhD students and postdocs who've already earned their PhD. So entry level is kind of difficult to define. The other challenge for defining entry level is that there are lots of ways in. Mm-hmm. So I've met plenty of people in the field of computational biology who don't start out in computational biology. Like they start out as, say, an electrical engineer, and then they by the time they finish their PhD, they find an interest in biology, where they're applying computational biology techniques in useful ways. So their entry was quite late compared to others.
And are there any, like, if you're hiring someone, are there any traits or experiences you look for?
Um, I look for flexibility. I think you can solve problems as they come up in a efficient way. Uh, Programming experience is really useful. When I'm looking for like high school students, for example, in the pre-college program, we look for students who have a strong math background, which tells us that we can teach them programming and they'll be successful. So ultimately, we're looking for the characteristics that are going to make people successful.
Hmm. Are there any like current programs that would be regarded highly when looking for hires?
Um, I mean, I would be. It's going to sound maybe kind of selfish, but like I believe that the programs that I teach in provide value to the students and should be well reflected in admissions into the next phase of people's lives. So I have the pre-college program, which you're in, that seems to help people get into undergrad and kind of help choose a trajectory for that. We have an undergraduate comp bio program here, and the students find excellent jobs in biotechs. I co-direct a master's program in automated science, and our students do great finding jobs. And then the PhD program, it's a little different because some of the students want to go into academia, some of the students want to go into industry. Um, it's challenging to get an academic position, so fewer students try, but we get students who do end up going kind of either track with great success and go on to have wonderful careers.
Hmm. And going back to like your college experience,
Mm-hmm.
was there anything you like loved or wish you'd done in college?
Um, I really loved research. That was a lot of fun for me. As far as things I wish I did more research. When I was an undergrad, I started out as a business major because I was also a manager of a Taco Bell,
Mm.
and I thought it was fun as an undergrad to make more money than a lot of my peers. And I realized about halfway through that actually I needed to focus more on research and my studies if I wanted to do really interesting things that were better than making burritos all day long.
Mhm.
Right. So doing it all over again, uh, I would have been more inclined to not work as hard as I did on things that are unrelated to my career trajectory.
Mm. And is there anything in particular that you think really helped you get through college?
Um, Good work ethic, and the other thing that was probably really helpful was supportive mentors.
Mm.
So I worked with 3 faculty members on research projects, and we worked very hard to solve the problems we were working on. And as a result, they gave me, I believe, excellent recommendation letters that allowed me to progress to the next phases of my career. So that was to graduate school, and I think that was really good for me.
Mm. And in college or after college, what was your like first STEM job?
So after undergrad, I went directly into graduate school. Then after graduate school, I had earned my PhD. Actually took the work that I did in one of the courses and became my PhD thesis and started a company. And so I worked in that company for a couple of years and then sold that company and came back to CMU as a research scientist. I was doing half research and half teaching. And in the process of doing that teaching, I really discovered that I love teaching. And then that turned into a teaching faculty role.
All right. And would you have any parting advice for someone pursuing a STEM career?
Um, be willing to work hard, and I would say make sure you're doing things that are valuable to society.
Huh?
I think biomedicine, biotech, I think there's a lot of potential there to apply interesting computational techniques and AI and machine learning and do really great things that actually help people. Whereas, some of the big tech companies that will pay you, huge checks, they're basically trying to sell ads, right,
Mhm.
or sell media. And I think people should aim a little higher than that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your
Yep,
time.
of course.